Wingman Joker, thank you for listening to this channel and please support the channel. Please subscribe. Chapter 419, Bloodline Improvement. After making sure that the blood purification pill was real, Masel had one thought in mind. It was time to save Meryl. Although he was feeling a little worried about what his sisters were plotting, he knew that his best course of action was to win the bet, so after leaving the Alchemist's Guild, he quickly took Victor and hurried toward the central keep of Sun City. It was where the prison was located. Thankfully he didn't meet anyone dangerous along the road, and Victor, who was acting as docile as a real elven horse, didn't arouse any suspicion. After reaching the keep, the nervous Masel, who was inspected again by golden guards, was allowed in. He wanted to ask Victor how he was pulling this out of his act so perfectly, but fearing that someone was watching him, he did nothing until they reached a large black-colored giant hollow tree that had a black gold door with the words "Prison" painted on it. "Stop," one guard in black armor said rudely. "State your purpose." "I am here to see Meryl. As her master, I have the right to meet her," Masel said coldly as he flashed his token. Nowadays even the guards began disrespecting him. All thanks to his sisters smearing his reputation. "Noted, you can come in, but the horse must stay out," the guard said. "I know," Masel said as he dragged Victor to the side. "I told you," he whispered as he began tying Victor to a pole. "Sorry, I have to do this." "Hee-haw," Victor responded with a nod. "Good," Masel said as he turned back and began to head toward the prison guard. "Take care of my horse. If anything wrong were to happen to it, you will be held responsible," he ordered coldly as he walked inside. Ellipsis. Christopher struggled to get out of Chuckles, and so did his Justice Ring friends, but they could never do that as the traitor Mona pushed them to the ground after grabbing them from the car. They were in the backyard of a very familiar grand mansion in the suburb of Ring Cloud City. This place was the correction facility, where they usually handed off the criminals who had superpowers to the custodians. Here the criminals were rehabilitated and the monsters were disposed of under the supervision of the government. "Are those the ones you told me about?" Custodian Johnson asked, looking at Christopher and the others without recognizing them. How could he? That mean girl with an eye patch made them drink some strange liquid that changed their faces and deprived them of their voice. "Yes, they are," Mona said, some guilt in her voice. Christopher struggled to send signals to the custodian, but failed, due to the ropes securing his body and the gag in his mouth. "We have a lively one here. Don't worry, kid, we will make sure to re-educate you well," the custodian said as he ruffled Christopher's hair like a father would do to his naughty son. "Please take care of them. We found them stealing from a bank," Mona sighed. "Don't worry, as long as they don't completely turn into monsters, they can be helped." "Where are your friends anyway? Why are you alone?" "They were badly injured. One of those guys can shoot lasers," she said. "Look, even my calling device was broken by them," she said, showing the custodian her broken belt buckle. "Oh, you need to replace that," he said with a frown. "Yeah, it was hit by this bitch," Mona said, pointing to Opal with an apologetic look. "Don't worry, I will send you a new one in 2 days. The headquarters is having some troubles lately after an intruder planted a virus that crippled our database," he sighed, taking the buckle and giving it to his assistant. "Oh, is that why there were no new missions lately?" she asked. "Yeah, take care now," Custodian John said, sending her off. "I understand. Then I will leave those guys in your care," she said, turning around, getting back into her truck, before driving away without sparing them another glance. Christopher glared angrily at her as she drove away. That traitor bitch, working for an evil organization. He heard them speak of their plan to infiltrate this place and steal everything. Those bastards must be planning to release the criminals here. He needed to alert the custodians. He began to make noise. Once the custodians begin to investigate this, everything will be cleared. That bitch Mona will be. Bam, something hit him. Arg, bastard, know your place. Ellipsis. Don't worry, we will make sure you will learn discipline from now on, the custodian who hit him with a metal cudgel said. He no longer cared to put an act. Take them to the preparation room. Bam, Christopher was hit again as 2 masked giant men walked out from the mansion. They grabbed Christopher and his friends with ease and then brought them inside the mansion that was decorated like an asylum. They didn't take them upstairs, but toward an industrial-scale elevator that headed down, into a very dark world. Ellipsis. Meryl, Masel exclaimed as soon as he reached the cell where the pretty dark-haired girl was imprisoned after he ordered the guard there to open the door. "Young master," she exclaimed as she stood up and then fell down due to her being shackled to a wall. He quickly hurried to her side and helped her sit down, noticing the filthy rags she was dressed in. "Those idiots. I told them to treat you nicely," he exclaimed angrily, making the guard outside smirk as he ignored him. "It was your royal sister who told them to shackle me," Meryl said. "It is only thanks to your warning that it might ruin the experiment that I was not whipped when she ordered it," she added. "That bitch," he flared. "I swear I will." "Don't curse at her young master," Meryl told him quickly as she worriedly looked at the door. "She will use it against you," she whispered. "Don't worry, I have found a solution. We will win the bet and that bitch will lose," he said, presenting a red-colored pill that he dropped as soon as he took it out of his storage ring. "Shit, where did it go?" he asked, as he quickly found it rolling on the floor. "Young master, you must be more careful," Meryl smiled sweetly. Her young master was really clumsy. It was as if someone hit his hand making the pill fly away. "What is this?" she asked. "A bloodline improving pill," he declared as he retrieved it. "Young master, were you scammed again?" she sighed. Her young master was a little naive sometimes. If it were not for that, he wouldn't have fallen into his sister's trap in the first place. "No, this time it's real," Massel said. "I met someone." He paused. "I will tell you later. Anyway, my master confirmed it." "Oh, young master, you shouldn't really trust Master Channas completely. He was your sister's master before you know. And he kicked her out because she was too lousy. My master is a very reputable elf, Meryl." Meryl sighed. If the elven princess was lousy, what would that make him? She decided not to think about it. "Don't worry, this pill was gotten from a different source," he said with a reassuring smile. "Fine, let's get on with it," she sighed. As long as she could save her young master, everything would be fine. He shouldn't have betted with his sister just for her. She was a lowly human after all. It was not worth it risking his reputation for her. "First I want you to eat these," Massel said, slowly taking out a paper bag full of brown things that looked very similar to elven horse's dung. "Those are energy bars. They are full of nutrients, and if we want the bloodline improvement to succeed, you will need to eat them all," he said, in a strange apologetic voice. "Oh," Meryl nodded, immediately taking one and inspecting it. It had no smell at all. She hesitated for a moment then put it in her mouth. She was starving as they didn't give her a lot of food here. She swallowed as she looked at Massel with sad eyes. "Young master, if you wanted me to eat shit, you should have just asked. You didn't need to disguise it as something else," she said with a sad voice, looking at him with tears in her eyes. It was clear she just swallowed it earlier to follow his command. She had no idea her young master had degraded to this degree already. "Shit, so that's what it tasted like." Massel finally figured it out. "It is not shit though. It just tastes as such," Massel said. "Young master, are you sure you were not fooled?" Meryl asked. "Those things really looked and tasted like pieces of shit. I was not fooled. Those things were made out of some kind of mushroom." He said you should no longer feel hungry after eating one. Massel quickly clarified. Meryl asked, as for some strange reason, she truly no longer felt hungry. Wasn't this the effect of eating something this disgusting? "A friend, you will meet him later, now eat the rest." "Sorry, you really need to eat them." "I had no idea that the young master had such weird hobbies," she said as she took one and began to eat it. She was clearly joking, but it didn't make eating all those any easier. Massel sighed watching her struggle. For some strange reason, the sight of her teary blaming eyes made him feel that he should bully her more. No, never. He was not a sadist elf. "Finished," Meryl finally said. "Good, now take this," he said, giving her the pill. Meryl nodded, hesitating for a moment before looking at Massel. "What, young master, if anything wrong were to happen to me, don't confront your sister," Meryl said seriously. Her intuition was telling her that this might also be a trap. "Don't worry," he said, squeezing his fist. "Just take it already, and let us win the bet and slap the face of that bitch. Just promise." "Fine." Meryl sighed and put the pill in her mouth then sat in a meditative pose. Massel watched nervously by her side. At first, Meryl was okay. Just frowning a bit. Moments later it was as if she was having a fever, as sweat began to drip from her face and hair. Her hair strangely began to turn from black to purple, just like Victor's. Massel gasped. The pill was real. Ah! Suddenly as if possessed, Meryl began to scream in pain as she stood up. Masel hurried to her side, but moments later he was pushed by a wave of energy, the iron chains shaking her to the wall shattered, and Muriel began to float in midair with a strange dark energy field extending all around her. Masel tried to hurry and grab her, but he was pushed back again as all the clothes on her body burned, revealing an exquisite body. Masel wanted to look away, but his neck refused to turn. She was that beautiful, Kia, she screamed, sending the entranced Masel back once more with a shock, making him hit the walls and making the cell shake. Masel gasped as he hurried to his feet and looked at her. Her eyes were no longer closed. They were wide open and shining as red as blood. She looked at him. From the depth of his heart, he felt it. Fear, terror, dread. For the first time in his elven life, he truly knew what those words meant. He shivered as if an apex predator was eyeing him. Every cell in his body told him to run away. He didn't, he just looked back at her. No matter what, she was his Meryl. He didn't know how long it took. But he kept persisting, ignoring the blood that seeped out of his mouth, nose, and ears. He knew that he was getting injured badly, but he couldn't run away. If he left now, someone might interrupt her. He had to be here, in case the guards came. He had to protect her. Masel was really about to pass out when the oppressive energy finally subsided, allowing him to relax and steady his footing. Slowly, Meryl's eyes returned to normal. "We did it," she said as she looked at him. He couldn't hear it because his ear had long been damaged, but he could read her sweet lips as she smiled at him. She collapsed to the ground moments later. Masel didn't hesitate as he ran to check on her, putting her head gently on his lap as he checked her breath. She was alive. He could feel her heart beating strongly as he covered her body gently with his cape. She was alive, just collapsed out of exhaustion. Masel sighed in relief as he took a high-grade healing pill and then relaxed. What was that? He wondered as his internal organs began to heal up. What was that pressure he felt earlier? What was that dark energy? The way her eyes looked earlier seemed familiar. He got the answer to his question moments later when his ears healed and he could finally hear it. Wah wah wah. It was a very unique sound of a siren ringing from outside of the prison. This siren was only activated under one condition. The holy artifact had detected a demon inside of the city. And that guy was not located yet. No wonder the guards didn't come to disturb him. They had no time to care for him as they must have hurried to follow the protocol. Wait, realizing something, Masel nervously looked at Meryl, who was now clutching onto him in her sleep, the way his body reacted earlier, that overbearing glare. HSSSSSs. Could it be that Meryl was the demon?